emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and
receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 212.AM0407, certificate number 52946, Chemtrails.
Chemtrails.
At long last.
Hashtag chemtrails. I almost wonder if I should title this episode Hashtag Chemtrails, because it does feel like the two go together.
How do we alphabetize it if it starts with a hashtag?
That's true. It's going to be right at the top or right at the bottom.
Like, does hashtag come under H in the dictionary? I don't know.
No. It's like every passport, password now. It's got to have a symbol.
You don't think if you're reading the dictionary, it's like Hardy Boys, then all the hashtags, then hashtag.
Hashtag chemtrails, hashtag government, hashtag moon landing.
Don't you talk about chemtrails on all your podcasts?
Well, this was the thing. Early on Twitter, you know, one of the ways that I used Twitter was to periodically perform in the character of somebody I thought was ridiculous. And one of those characters was a person that was really convinced and obsessed with chemtrails. And anytime there was anything I could point to as evidence of chemtrails, I would hashtag all caps chemtrails, talk about it. I also used to go on and say that I was a member of the liberal elite who was going to admit to sending jackbooted federal thugs to take your guns, and that it was happening tomorrow morning at 6.
6 seems early.
Well, that's the thing. That's when taking guns is at its best.
First light.
So I did that a lot, and then of course during Bean Dad, a lot of those were taken out of context and made to make me seem like I truly believed in
Jewish space lasers. And I realized before you always had the curtain of irony.
I did.
Is he being silly about the space lasers?
Do you remember being silly? Oh,
those were the days.
But one of the funny things about, I think maybe primarily the funny thing about conspiracy theories is that if you hold conspiracy theories, you often aren't either aware of it or able to admit that it is, in fact, a conspiracy theory rather than just a smart thing that you know and other people don't.
The other person's esoteric knowledge is a conspiracy theory. Yours is expertise. Yours is a peek behind the curtain.
So with that in mind, are there any conspiracy theories that you can see, that you adhere to, that you can kind of potentially say like, well, that might be a conspiracy and I just am a little bit into it?
Ooh. I mean, I don't think any of them are like the classic ones.
You believe birds are real. You think 9/11 really happened.
I do.
And you think it was, as the narrative suggests, some
yes. I don't think it was
angry people.
I don't think it was a false flag.
No.
Bush looked very surprised
when
he was reading the goat book.
You think the moon landing happened pretty much as described?
Yes, but only Apollo 11 and 15. They faked 12, 14, 16, and 17.
I see. I don't know if I can counter that with any...
For budget reasons.
How do you feel about the Kennedy administration or the Kennedy assassination? Do you think there were 3 hobos involved from the grassy knoll?
So that, when you asked me, is there a conspiracy theory you believe in? And aside from silly, I think when you asked me that last time, I said I didn't believe that the applause meters in stadiums were actually
measuring
linked to sound.
I think you're probably right there. But
see, I talked you into it. It's not a conspiracy theory if you believe in it.
What happens when the hydroplanes do the race? Do you think that's rigged?
No, the hat, the ball under the hat, and the race in the seventh inning, those are legit. But the Kennedy assassination does seem like one where just kind of any observer of government would be like, really? This guy was in Russia and he's married to a Russian, and it's kooky, the Kennedy assassination.
There's a lot going on.
The lone gunman theory is, maybe less narratively satisfying, but also not the only option. I don't feel like I have a strong opinion.
The mob and the
If you got the mob
hobos,
and the Cubans and the CIA and the hobos.
What about the guy with the umbrella?
The hobo army.
Yeah.
Just leaving little signs on the fence like warm pie here.
Kill the president
put
here.
the rifle there.
Yeah, the motorcycle cop that left the microphone open. Like, what's going on?
I mean, and that's the thing. I no longer know enough about that to be like, and here's why. Because the guy opened his umbrella 3 times,
Right.
60 seconds before. It's really just like, if the president dies in that state, in that particular time, and the guy who did it is such an oddball and says he's a patsy and then is immediately shot before he can explain, Mr. Oswald, what do you mean by I'm a patsy? You're going to wonder.
Sure.
You're going to want a congressional committee.
Sure.
And you're going to want to
And then the congressional committee is going to be very confusing. Right. Everything they say is going to be strange. Back and to the left.
Yep. So I don't know. Like that's one where I'm willing to believe almost anything.
Okay. All right. I've got some things I'm going to talk to you about after the show, suggest some different interpretations that maybe will get you off on a whole other third rail.
But in general, I think, I'm generally skeptical of conspiracy theories just for logistical reasons.
Seems like an Occam's razor problem a lot of the time, right?
Yes.
Like simplest explanation is probably the closest one.
And then the explanation of, well, the thing you're describing would require thousands of people to know about this and stay silent. Does that really ever happen?
That's often the real problem. If you dig down on any conspiracy theory that involves any kind of global conspiracy to really do anything, any conspiracy that will involve like manipulation of the banks beyond just the normal manipulation of the banks, the ones that are fairly transparently robbing us all of our money. But especially ones that would involve, say, like large groups of just working people that would have to sign off on. I mean, how many people would have to actually sign off on a faked moon landing? It would be 1,000 people, many of whom had a real vested interest in it being
And not faking the moon landing.
like they actually designed the machine, and they don't want to pretend it didn't work.
It really has to be over 1,000 people.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, all of those scientists sitting in the room at those monitors are the people that not only designed the system, but probably designed the monitor. Like they're monitoring a thing that only they can monitor. And if it were to be faked, either they had to be in on the lie, or someone who knew more about the monitor itself had to fake it, where it's not like a monitor that you bought at Radio Shack. Like every one of those systems was being monitored by the exact person that designed it and built it.
And it's not just, the more you learn about history, you just learn more and more cases where it's always less sophisticated and more disappointing than you're thinking.
So true.
It's not like a room full of geniuses or sinister villains made any kind of decision. I mean, there's the eagle's nest and that's about it. The rest of the time it's just dumb, banal stuff.
That's the problem with most conspiracy, is that life is super boring and people are not that smart.
What you want is a crazy narrative and a cover up, and that makes a conspiracy theory a great story. And it just doesn't. That's not what's happening in those closed rooms.
Here's something. You have presumably met a lot of smart people. Some of the
Like on Jeopardy?
Well, and just in general as part of your social life, right? You meet people who are
Sure
among what we consider to be the group of the rarefied air of legitimately smart people.
And I'm very starstruck. Like I had dinner next to Tim Berners-Lee once, and that guy invented the World Wide Web. And I just, the whole time I'm thinking,
wow,
this guy invented the World Wide Web.
Right. You know Marilyn Voss Savant.
I don't.
Smartest lady.
Just because I shared a parade page occasionally does not mean she invited me to Nantucket.
But, I also have been in the company of some legendarily smart people. And one of the unifying characteristics, present company accepted, of course, is that they're all, it's like regularly smart, pretty normal in their amount of smartness. Not in the silo in which they are like overwhelmingly smart. There are sometimes you read an article by somebody and you're like, wow, you're smart, but not so smart that you could be
right, like
fooling the world.
I will often get, boy, I couldn't have written this.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I couldn't have invented that, but I never get like, and I bet you faked the moon landing.
Yeah, right. Like you were 35 and won an Oscar. That's awesome. But could you convince the whole world that, the birds weren't real? Or design a bird that was so real looking? I love the birds aren't real thing because lots of people out there.
And do people believe it?
I think they do.
But is it 10 to 1 people enjoying it over people believing it?
I see. That's the problem with modern conspiracy theories.
I don't know the flat earthers are real.
Yeah, all the people on the flat Earth websites, it could be 99.9% goofballs and 0.01% grandmothers who are like, they aren't? Oh no. But I mean, the flat earthers, like,
they seem sincere.
I am not a conspiracist. And people yell at me sometimes because I do the Occam's razor test on everything. Like,
no, probably not.
Really? Seems like maybe what it says is probably the thing. And I'm always asking people who should know, like, can you name throughout history any, like, Jews control the media level of global conspiracy that time has
that turned out to be true,
shown to be true? And they're always like, yes, absolutely. But they kind of resort to the Manhattan Project. It's like, no, that wasn't a conspiracy. That was like literally a
Congress of Vienna doesn't count.
And we knew about it.
Yeah.
Like we know about it and nobody feels super manipulated by it now. Like really, the big ones all seem really big and they're contingent on a belief that the world is not what it seems, right? Because it's not just, the conspiracy theory is never confined, because in order to have faked the moon landing, there would have to be whole systems of control outside of the ones that already we know exist.
That are not what they purport to be.
And that are not visible and are also not visible to our elected officials, that are within this extra visible world of systems and leadership that have other goals other than the goals that we all seem to have, which is like, well, we need to make enough food for the year. We need, banks are exchanging money and goods and services, and we're trying to hospitals. But then there has to be like this other huge umbrella where people are.
Where do they get the time? Where are those offices?
Yeah, and how do you get that job? And I mean, they can't all be Rothschilds.
Like, who's catering those offices? And
but the premise being that lying to millions of people is necessary to accomplish these goals, and that often then it extends to millions must die, millions must be infected, millions are like
what huge
do you mean? Populations.
The stakes are so high.
The huge populations are being manipulated to the degree that in order for this banking crisis to work, it's going to create starvation in Eastern Africa, or that it's all part of a manipulation in order for a small group of people to be wealthy and powerful beyond imagining. Some
of this, because people do like the logistics of it, right? To imagine how the strings are being pulled and how you would go about working a theory like this. Some people like to imagine the shadowy cabal, but a lot of people like to dig into the details. And I don't want to say that conspiracy theories are not pernicious, because they are, and they lead to hate and division. But also there's just some element, I think, of people wishing the world were more interesting.
Yeah. It's a huge part of it.
It's a world building, and not just because they have paranoia or other mental illness. They just wish the world had the richness they see in certain kinds of fantasy texts.
That's right.
Like they want there to be drama and villains and secrets and third act twists, and reality rarely indulges that.
And it's not always just that they're bored in one action. It's that it's so hard to understand why, for instance, I haven't gotten rich. I know a lot of rich people. Why the hell am I not rich? Why am I not the announcer on Jeopardy, or not even in the top 10 on your list of potential?
I want to hear your conspiracy theory to explain this.
There are a lot of them. I'll talk to you about that offline too.
Doesn't it just seem most likely that just some random person is not on the short list to be on the Jeopardy announcer?
I am famously. I have a broadcasting voice. I put people to sleep all across the country with the dulcet tones.
Well, we don't want that at the top of the show. We should have you narrate the end of Jeopardy
with Ken Jennings. See, I walk right into the job.
But people will fall asleep.
No,
because it's so soothing.
Because I can say it in an excitement voice.
At the end of the show, you can send people off to bed. Are you getting tired?
Hey, everybody.
It's okay to watch Wheel if it's on next.
This has been Jeopardy, y'all.
we have like a Samuel L. Jackson and Do the Right Thing DJ at the end of the show.
Hey, fellow babies. I think it often is that people don't understand why things haven't worked out for them. And it feels very much like there must be a reason beyond just that either life isn't fair, or you made some bad choices, or, there was a crop failure or whatever. Like in a secular world, a lot of it takes the place of just the arbitrary hand of the devil or God's capriciousness.
Certainly at gathering places for these people, you do imagine and see, kind of outsiders and have-nots. That's why it's unusual when people of success and power back up conspiracy theories.
Well, it seems in a lot of those cases, as we may see in this episode, depending on how you want to interpret some of this information, it does seem very cynical that sometimes people in power recognize that, this is the way to manipulate hundreds of thousands of voters or donors by...
But what about the ones that seem to be true believers?
I mean, Elon Musk is taking ketamine and driving the Department of the Treasury. Like, there's just nuts out there,
Yeah.
Drunk on power.
I mean, that's what dooms conspiracy theories. When you see somebody who actually does feel like one of the smarts who could be pulling all the strings, and then you realize, well, they're just a dope who was in the right place at the right time, mostly.
One of the Occam's razor things that that's kind of always gnawing at me is, what is there really to do? Like, if you had $100 billion, how is your day-to-day life any different than if you had $100 million or $1 million? Like, how good can your food be?
Right. How
good can your mattress be? Even if your mattress is just babies, you could afford
lumpy.
You could afford that at $50 million. You can get a mattress made of babies.
If the most expensive mattress was full of babies, I just want to go on the record and say I wouldn't do it. Not even for cruelty reasons. It just seems like it would be bumpy.
It'd be pretty bumpy.
There are little skulls under there.
Yeah, a little, but they're
fat. They're probably moving around. Oh, I see. They're chubby.
Yeah.
babies.
What if your mattress was made out of babies that had been fattened, like corn fattened babies? Seems unlikely. And the thing is, I know that greed doesn't work that way, and that somebody always wants more. But to the degree that you're secretly like manipulating populations in order to
what?
In the end, it only ever comes up to enrich oneself.
It often comes down to bragging power, and the fact that it's a conspiracy theory means you could never boast about your secret accomplishments that you've done in the shadows. Like that's why people do these things. They want to be seen doing them.
The interesting thing about chemtrails as a contemporary conspiracy theory is that it kind of appears to have just shown up out of nowhere, sort of like QAnon. We were living in a world that was mostly connected to reality. And then it seems like almost overnight, one day we weren't. And it was mainstream thinking that that there was some kind of swamp running the government.
Deep state conspiracy to run a secret pedophile nation.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, that would have got you laughed out of the room. And then a small group must have thought of it and convinced others.
Often it's just a person that thinks of it, and then there are 3 or 4 people that cutsle up to them and say, "Yeah, what that guy said," and and it goes from there.
Well, think about how influential an author can be. A single mind thought up Middle Earth. A single mind thought up The Sopranos for the most part, and that just changed the thinking of tens or hundreds of millions of people. And I guess that can be true if your idea is a bad one. Like there's a pizza parlor where they're harvesting hormones from your kids.
Yeah, right. And it really does often start in a place that crazy, like harvesting adrenal glands of children in order to power the Democratic Party.
I mean, if I had just like the baby mattress, if I had a bunch of adrenal glands of children, there's probably more interesting things I could do than power the Democratic Party.
For sure.
It's not even top 10.
Every morning, if you put a child's adrenal gland right up your butt, think about how fun your day would be. You'd just be like, woohoo!
You and I can only joke about this because we're Democrats, and
That's right.
We're
because we know what's really happening.
Yeah, we're used to what we're doing with the adrenochrome.
Yeah, we actually do put them up our butts. Ken, I've always tried to be very upfront about my mental health challenges. I've been really up and down over the years, wrestling with a variety of challenges, and I've really benefited from the times that I've had professional therapy. I've had a handful of therapists over the years, and they've played kind of an instrumental role in my life. The problem, of course, is that there have been long periods, either because I didn't have insurance or often because I couldn't find a therapist, that I was out in the woods. I was in the wilderness, untreated. And one of the things about having a mental health crisis is finding a therapist is kind of the last thing you want to do. Sometimes because you don't feel like you deserve the help, and sometimes because it's just overwhelming to navigate. And more all the time. I mean, it used to be you'd pull out the phone book, but now you would think it'd be easier, but in fact, it's harder to find a therapist that's covered by your insurance. Your insurance is constantly changing, at least if you're mine. I had a really great relationship with a therapist, and then they no longer take my insurance. And then my insurance changed, and I had to bounce out of another relationship. And all that is kind of devastating. But there's a new healthcare provider called Rula. Rula will help you find a therapist that's in your network where you end up paying only $15 a session. And they do this by partnering with over 15,000 therapists and psychiatrists nationwide. And I think kind of what's most marvelous about the service is that they build a profile and then they are committed to supporting you, helping you find the right therapist for you, and scheduling appointments and monitoring your progress. Like it's a hands-on service that kind of keeps you from falling through the cracks and keeps you from bouncing out of having a therapeutic relationship because of all these systemic problems in finding and keeping a therapist. So I highly recommend Rula. I really recommend, if you are suffering, that you recognize that you're on a mental health journey, and you can make a big difference in your life by finding therapy, by sticking with therapy. And although it is challenging, this is a great service that helps make that a lot simpler. So here's what we're offering you. If you go to Rula.com/omnibus, it's really easy to get started. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's covered by their insurance. And after you sign up, just make sure you support the show and add that omnibus at the end, Rula, RULA.com/omnibus. You deserve mental health care that works with you and not against you and your budget. Ken, as you know, I'm always trying to eat healthily. I know you are too, but as I get older, I'm managing my blood sugar now, in addition to my LDL cholesterol and my high blood pressure. Like it's just I'm on a real hamster wheel of health consciousness, and I'm trying to eat better all the time. I've always said, if I were to be a rich person, the two things that I would do as a rich person, before, of course, giving all my money away to charity, would be that I'd have my clothes made for me so I wasn't rumpling around in off-the-rack crapola, and I would have a personal chef. I'd have somebody that made healthy, nutritious, and hearty food for me that would both create a plan for me so that I could eat well, and also these meals would be just so easy. I wouldn't have to sit and agonize over how many different ways you can put hamburger in macaroni. I would have delicious food on demand. And that is what I've been finding lately in Hungry Root. Hungry Root is basically like being a millionaire and having your own personal shopper and chef. They do all the grocery shopping. They make recommendations about healthy groceries, nutrition preferences. It's what I aspire to be, and Hungry Root is kind of helping me get there a lot more easily and a lot more healthily and with a lot more variety and taste than I'd be capable of coming up with on my own. And you can tailor those meals to your own kind of specs in terms of whether you want to be gluten-free or dairy-free, if you want to have high protein. I mean, right now I'm kind of letting them choose the food, and it's been super groovy, super delicious. Also, Hungry Root has great options, not just for bachelors like me who wish they were rich and had their clothes made for them. They also have great options for the whole family. You can get kids' snacks and sweets, stuff for school, ready-to-eat meals, salads. And the best part is there are no high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, or preservatives in any of the Hungry Root food. So it's only top quality meat and seafood. There's no hormones and antibiotics in the food. So I think that everybody's going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. And here's an exclusive offer. For a very limited time, you'll get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. So go to hungryroot.com/omnibus. Use the code omnibus. That helps us a lot. It lets them know that you heard about it from us and not from we're a podcast. We don't have competitors or enemies. But throw us this endorsement and go to hungryroot.com/omnibus. Use the code omnibus, and in exchange for this transaction, you'll get 40% off your first box and a free item of choice for life. hungryroot.com/omnibus. Enter the code omnibus. The funny thing about chemtrails is that, unlike a lot of QAnon level conspiracy theories of the present day, including a lot of the ones we've mentioned, flat Earth, birds, 9/11 there's a whole school of thought that the actual airplanes that people saw were holographic projections, and all of the buildings at the World Trade Center were blown up from within. It
does show that, to some degree, it's aesthetic. The people just want the theory to be as crazy as it could be, because there's lots more interesting 9/11 theories you could tell than the planes weren't real. But people just want the craziest one because that's the best story.
Well, and you wonder, if you could holographically project airplanes flying through the sky, God, why wouldn't we be doing all kinds of stuff like that?
We only did it once.
You'd be really screwing with the world all the time.
It's lost technology like Greek fire. We could only do it once and then the machine broke.
Although maybe, I read a book one time, one of the first conspiracy exposure books in the early 90s. We were all grunge era, and there was a book called Behold the Pale Horse, which was a I actually should do an omnibus on it. It was kind of a compendium of all the conspiracy theories up till then and an attempt to put them together into a cohesive theory, which was impossible because they're internally contradictory, and when you try and tie them together, they're just it's
all
too crazy.
20 Kennedy theories are true somehow. Everybody was shooting at him. Real crossfire.
But one of the theories suggested that a certain percentage of the jet airplanes that we see are just cloaked UFOs. Because, of course, if you were a UFO, why wouldn't you cloak yourself as a 747? And I remember laying in my bed just wasted, like on drugs, too.
Wasted on drugs.
Not just drunk, wasted on drugs, laying in my bed.
Oh, I thought you meant like compared to tired. I wasn't just wasted because I had like run a 5K. No. I was wasted on drugs.
It was on drugs, a different kind of wasted. And listening to the airplanes flying, in the pattern that used to be over Seattle where, jets would just fly right down Capitol Hill.
I'm just very aware of this right now because I'm trying to record an audiobook at home this week.
And it's just
flight path city, man.
One after another.
That's why we're Jet City, because you can't get away from that noise.
That's right. If you are landing in Seattle and you're coming in on a southern approach, you fly right over Ken's house. You can look out the window and see it.
Wave. Make sure you wave.
Beep, beep.
I'm trying to do my audiobook.
Honk the horn. Beep, beep. But I remember laying there and thinking, how many of these are actually UFOs? And why would they bother? Like, if you could cloak yourself as a airplane, why wouldn't you just cloak yourself as a cloud? Well,
that was going to be my
nothing?
question. The cloaking device is good enough that you can look like some other aircraft, but not like nothing.
Right, not
Apparently.
like nothing. But maybe the holographic technology that they used at 9/11, maybe they use it all the time. Maybe every airport has one, and it's just like every 14th airplane is totally fake, and they're just keeping it warm.
I'm asking the wrong questions. They do use it all the time, Ken.
Yeah, Ken.
You're so naive.
But the root, let's say the seed of chemtrails, has roots in reality, and that is the whole post World War II.
You haven't said what the chemtrails conspiracy is. Is that on purpose?
Yeah.
Because I have to say, I don't know what it is.
Oh, we're going to get to the chemtrails conspiracy in a second. But, well, no, I'll give you the briefing. The briefing is that, and this is a widely held theory. And in fact, I'll just go ahead and tell you the statistics. Why not? I got you on the phone here anyway. I got you sitting across the table from me anyway.
Captive audience.
10% of the people in sometimes widespread surveys involving tens of thousands of people, 9 or 10% of them, 9% of respondents believe in the chemtrails conspiracy, and up to 20% believe that some of it is true.
These are the fair-minded chemtrails believers.
Yeah.
No, I'm not one of those crazies.
But I believe some of it is.
I just think one
true.
plane in 10 is doing chemtrails.
What it is when you look up in the sky during certain kinds of atmospheric conditions and you see the contrails that are the product of condensation in the exhaust of airplanes, right?
As a kid, I didn't get that. I thought it was the airplanes were putting out smoke.
Well, there you are. There you have it. That is the chemtrails
like
conspiracy.
The engine is putting the same way a factory puts out smoke.
Right.
But in fact, that's not true, right? They're just for the most part, they're putting out something that crystallizes as ice. Is that what it is?
What happens is up where it's very cold, up where the air is crisp and cold, if atmospheric conditions are within a very wide range of conditions, the carbon dioxide and water vapor and soot that come out of the back of a jet engine, the soot acts as a catalyst for the water vapor to kind of freeze, and then that
like you're seeding a cloud.
Yeah, and then that becomes like a visible vapor. There's always this vapor of the exhaust of a jet, but because of this freezing action, it becomes this. Well, what is it?
White, opaque.
Well, it's a cloud. I mean, that's really how clouds form.
It's no different than a cloud.
Yeah. I mean, it's different in that it's the soot is petroleum rather than just the dirt of the Sahara.
Right.
But yeah, it functions the same. And as jet travel has increased, and jets are flying now over urban areas and over suburban areas and over rural areas, and often very, very high up in the sky, 30, 40,000 feet. And there's so much air traffic. If you download the Flight Tracker app and look at the number of airplanes that are in the sky at any given moment, any given place, they're crisscrossing the sky and they're sharing airspace. I mean, if you look up here at Seattle, there are planes going from Denver to Shanghai and from New York City to Tokyo and from London to Seoul, and they're all at 30 or 40,000 feet, and they're all going right over Seattle and also over Portland. I mean, they're everywhere. And they're not just following the same path. They're coming from and going to different places. So they go over each other in a kind of crisscross pattern. And depending on the day, depending on the weather, they will leave these contrails, jet trails, that often will stay in the sky and dissipate the same way that clouds do. They gradually sort of flatten out. They become sort of this cirrus-y sort of mist, and the chemtrails then, in cases where they crisscross, let's
call them contrails, not chemtrails.
The contrails, they kind of just become a high altitude layer of wispy clouds that appears almost to be like if you wanted to believe that this was some sort of chemical, like dusting, it does take on the character of like a blanket.
I mean, like everybody else in the world, I've been seeing these my whole life. And I guess because it had never occurred to me that there would be, like, I can't think of anything less sinister than a plane leaving a trail in the sky, just because I've been seeing it my whole life.
Yeah.
And they act, like you say, just like a cloud does. Yeah. It's like it's a white trail of vapor, and then it dissolves. And I guess that's what I would expect on some level that a plane would do. And it never occurred to me that that would be fertile ground for, kind of feverish questioning.
It does seem like it wouldn't be fertile ground.
But then again, is birds real? I also saw a lot of birds and assumed they were real. So what do I understand about how conspiracy theories form?
Well, again, the appeal is the appeal of the whole worldview that not only are things not what they appear, but that everything actually is under control. It's just under sinister control. The notion that the world is random, that things happen according to just the continually new moment of now, and there isn't often any way to predict it. I mean, the way you predict things is, has this happened before? What is the likelihood when I walk out the door that I'm going to get hit by a refrigerator falling from the sky? Very low.
Hasn't happened yet.
That's right. What are the odds that I'm going to get in my car and get hit by a drunk driver? It's much higher than the refrigerator, right? What's the likelihood as a 56-year-old that I'm going to have a heart attack right now because I'm so excited talking about chemtrails, and you're going to have to either perform life-saving
I'm just going to finish the show.
Yeah, you'll be like, well, he's still not awake.
I'm going to do the thing where it's like, okay, John, you be quiet for a second. I'm going to read some ads. You're like, ah.
But that's really hard for people, and it is, I think, in even among religious people, within the kind of secular confusion of now, it seems a lot less. If there's a storm, it's easy to attribute it to God. If you lose your money in a crypto scheme, it's just harder to see the hand of God in it.
I guess if you could generally, if in ancient times God was controlling the weather, like surely he could apply those same levers to the crypto market, I guess. But you're right. We don't have the cultural conditioning that God is hands-on with crypto the same way he is with the winds and the tides.
Yeah, is God mad at me because why would I have gotten laid off from Dollar General I did, why, what sense does that make? I mean, clearly there are a lot of people that do find kind of religion in everything. But we're in a strange world now where science, for a long time, for most of the time that everybody that's alive now was alive, science was given this pride of place. Science was given, I think for a lot of us, we read more about science and science's hand in our daily life and science's explanation for a phenomenon than most of us did hearing about, well, there, like maybe a famine in Ethiopia is God, or maybe even a hurricane in Florida. But yeah, it's much harder. Like, oh, my car got recalled again because the catalytic converter fell out. Like,
see, that's the problem. If you believe in a 1,000-year-old text, there's not a lot of stories about catalytic converters in the Bible. You need a new modern religion like Scientology.
What's increasingly strange about the conspiracy theories of the present day is they all rely on science. They're very focused on scientific proof of the meddling.
There has to be some naturalistic explanation, right? They're not just going to say a wizard did it, and that's why the Earth appears to be round.
That's right.
They're actually going to explain how the optical illusion works.
Yeah, God is not making me sick. It's government being run in a shadowy way, using chemicals that I can define and describe, using programs that do appear in budgets as line items, organizations that I do know are already sinister. Like and you see this across all modern conspiracy, it's evidence-based. In the minds of the people who are following it. They have proof. It's not just the proof of faith. It's
an abundance of evidence too.
Like
there's new evidence all the time. Like, look what I just saw on TV. Look at this if you read this report right. They're nothing if not always producing new evidence.
And in the case of chemtrails, the roots of chemtrails go back to the very dawn of jet travel. In the era immediately after World War II, the like novel and potentially earth-changing technology of seeding clouds in order to produce rain, which had been an ancient practice of burning sage and throwing your hands up in the air, praying for rain.
Rain dances, yeah.
We now understood that seeding clouds with lead iodide or silver iodide could create this phenomenon that I was just describing, where a piece of soot and a little bit of water vapor and some carbon dioxide or whatever the combinations were, you could produce rain where there had not been rain before.
Do you know the connection to like Kurt Vonnegut's brother here?
Lay it on me.
Kurt Vonnegut's brother Bernard, I think, was the first to prove that the silver iodide cloud seeding worked. And so a lot of Vonnegut's novels about kind of crazy mad scientists, absent-minded professors, doing kind of possible world-changing things are based on knowing his brother Bernard, the inventor of cloud seeding. And then all the conspiracies that came out of that. That's
phenomenal. I did not find that in my extensive research of cloud seeding.
Well, this can come up now. Like if any of the chemtrails believers are Vonnegut fans, this is going to be very meaningful.
It's just one more piece of evidence that proves that this is true.
Piece of the puzzle.
But so the U.S. government and many sort of government agencies and agencies around the world that had an interest in rain, and rain as a famine reducer, rain as a world builder.
We're all interested in rain.
Yeah, and this is kind of an offshoot of the Depression or the Dust Bowl era conviction that if you planted ground, it would bring rain.
Oh, I remember this.
Right? So that the idea of plowing up the plains and planting it all, plowing up the prairie, planting it all with wheat, meant that what had formerly been a dry prairie now was going to be an abundant garden. And initially, in the era before the Dust Bowl, It seemed to work, and it was a complete conviction on everybody's part.
Just an accident that it happened to work.
And then then all of a sudden we had a drought, and all of that went really haywire.
It worked till it didn't.
But the idea of cloud seeding seemed to suggest that, well, maybe we could it's another way of turning all the deserts of the world into abundant gardens. And so cloud seeding there was a lot of research put into it, government research, and a lot of cloud seeding that happened. And unfortunately, cloud seeding is kind of a mixed bag. And a lot of the evidence seems to suggest that clouds that produce rain after having been seeded with silver iodide probably were going to rain.
It was going to rain anyway.
It was going to rain. Maybe it was going to rain, 4 miles that way, but it was still going to rain.
It's a limited technology. It's true. Like I remember hearing about cloud seeding, dating back to the 50s or 60s, and I don't hear a lot about new advances in it.
Right. And cloud seeding is now still being used. It's actually very popular in the United Arab Emirates, where they're trying to generate a rainy climate. A couple of years ago, 2009, I guess, there were huge floods in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, floods that killed 100 people. And those floods were blamed on attempts
tinkering?
Yeah, to tinker with the weather.
Like credibly blamed, or just like blamed by conspiracy theorists?
Well, blamed in the Saudi press.
Got it.
Like, not all the way to conspiracy theories that we're going to see with Hurricane Helene and stuff like that, being blamed on weather manipulation.
But a convenient
like, what the hell?
Scapegoat.
Yeah, we've never had 100 people die in a flood, not in recorded memory. What's different?
You guys are tinkering with the clouds.
It's tinkering with the clouds. But then, to add to the confusion around cloud seeding, although cloud seeding did not produce an abundant, verdant garden in New Mexico, the U.S. Army was very intrigued by cloud seeding and used it in Vietnam in an operation called Operation Popeye. The idea was that the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which, as I'm sure you know, comes down the border of Cambodia and Laos in the mountains of Western Vietnam. And during the monsoon season, which is sort of March to November, largely the year, but during the monsoon season, the Ho Chi Minh Trail was often washed out. It was muddy and slippery and hard to traverse. So a lot of the supplies moving up and down the Ho Chi Minh Trail were during the dry season. Uh-huh. And the Air Force and the Army tried to use cloud seeding to extend the monsoon season over the Ho Chi Minh Trail into a time when there would have been a lot of resources directed by the Viet Cong now this is the season that we move a lot of stuff, and the Air Force was going to make it rain.
So there has been military research on this.
A lot.
That's a data point for
not
conspiracy
just
theory.
Research, but the 54th Weather Reconnaissance Squadron was established. Their motto was "Make mud, not war." And this is going to seem ludicrous, but for 5 straight years, from 1967 to 1972, they flew daily sorties during this season.
In the shoulder season.
Dropping cloud seeding chemicals.
Maybe they should have just dropped water. If I wanted to make the Ho Chi Minh Trail muddy, I'm not Henry Kissinger. I would just drop some water on it.
It's a lot harder to drop as much water as you might need. And also they were busy dropping Agent Orange to defoliate.
I still think my plan actually would have made the trail muddier, and I'm not sure these guys did.
Right. Well, and maybe Agent Orange would have made it muddier with Agent Orange.
Ew.
Yeah, I know. And cloud seeding was used in the Battle of Khe Sanh as a way of trying to, use the weather to defeat the massive enemy incursion there.
And was there just like, well, why not? This might work, or did they actually think they were moving the needle?
They thought they were moving the needle. You wouldn't keep doing it for 5 years if you didn't. But the problem
there's
is
probably no evidence, evidence of this today.
Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. It's not dry.
Yeah.
It's not even.
I'm sure some days it did rain and they were like high-fiving back at Weather Recon Base 57.
Yeah, even if it's not raining, even if it's not the rainy season, it's not like it suddenly is just like baking. I mean, it's hot as hell, but it's not. It's still humid there. So there was a considerable history of U.S. government attempts to manipulate the weather, not just for the benign purposes of getting crops to grow, but then the sinister purpose, using it to defeat an enemy.
I had no idea that the chemtrails theory had anything to do with weather control, until today.
Yeah.
I was today years old, as the young people say.
Isn't that lovely? Isn't it lovely to learn new things?
Yeah, I love to learn new untrue things. What a great use of my time.
Well, the U.S. government used it to such a degree that in 1977, there was a global meeting that was called the Environmental Modification Convention in Geneva, that where a treaty was signed by all the sort of major nations,
pledging to
not
weather modify,
to not mess with the weather,
even though it's unclear if they can or would.
But it seemed increasingly like either it did work because it did rain eventually.
Sometimes it rains,
or they were improving the technology, and one day it would work. It seemed like a Cold War thing that if the Soviets could make it rain in Chicago, then we would need to be able to make it rain in Moscow. And then it was going to strike up a weather manipulation race.
We have a rainfall gap.
Exactly.
we need to mess with their precious meteorological fluids.
Their precious fluids is right. So the U.S. signed off on the fact that they were not going to participate in SLAPs, or secret large-scale atmospheric programs. And all was pretty much right with the world. Although there was more and more jet travel, more and more contrails appearing all across the country. It was almost certainly a very fringe segment of the population that understood them to be anything other than just as you said, either as a child would think, the smoke and exhaust of airplanes, or anybody that ever read a magazine article would understand to be the water vapor,
ice crystals,
that's produced by the effects of a jet airplane. Until 1996, when the Air Force commissioned a study within their own Air Academy, internally within the kind of think tanky groups within the Air Force that are charged with, like, how would we do this if we wanted to do it? What's our program here? How could we do this? The Air Force said...
The military, by the way, is one area of modern life where decades later you often do find there were a bunch of guys in a room doing a crazy plan. Like, that is fertile ground for conspiracy theorists. Like, yep, we were really going to put dry ice in Lumumba's chewing gum and we thought it would make his head explode. Like, that kind of stuff did happen.
And what's confusing, I think, for people is that there are institutions within the military and within the government who feel it's absolutely their obligation to speculate, not just about what we can build, but what our enemies can build, what our economic competitors can build. And writing those papers are like college theses. 99% of college theses don't change the world at all.
Speculation.
Yeah, the hermeneutics of Calvin and Hobbes.
Do you put an umlaut in hermeneutics? You're like a Muppet for one syllable.
Sesame Street News. But this internal paper, which published in 1996 within the Air Force, not published widely, was titled "Weather as a Force Multiplier," which, as we know, is military terminology for here's how many soldiers we have, here's how much hardware we have, but what can we do to make that hardware twice as effective, or a multiplication of that.
Without bringing
force.
in 10 times as many dudes, what do you do?
Right. So now, in contravention of the Geneva Treaty of 1977, here's this paper. This isn't a policy. Weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. So speculating about 30 years in the future.
We're now in the far-flung future.
That's right. How can we do this? And within the paper, there were all these theories about how we would do it. And a lot of it was sort of the fantasy of nanotechnology. How would we create carbon dust that we could, instead of silver iodide, that we could use as a seed in clouds? How would we use UAVs? Drones.
Got it.
I'm
not in your weird military industrial complex world, John. I have to think about acronyms.
You're like, what is that? What is that? Now we don't have to fly up there with C-130s and spray it out the back through tubes. We could have drones up there kind of invisibly seeding clouds. But also, what if there were microscopic computer particles that created intelligent fog?
Yeah, what if there were?
So that the fog
Wouldn't
itself,
that ruin your day?
The fog itself had a brain. The fog could go where it wanted.
These people seem influenced by movies where fog is sinister.
Yeah, this is bad fog.
Because when I see fog in real life, I just think, oh, I can't see. But if you see fog in a movie, you're like, the fog's coming.
No, this is Jack the Ripper fog, except it's robot fog.
Oh, that's the worst kind of fog.
And if you remember 1996, 97, this was also kind of the dawn of the real internet forums, right? Or if not the dawn, then the early years of it.
Yeah, World Wide Web is just a year or two old.
And so a couple of guys, Richard Fink and William Thomas, start to, having been exposed to this paper, start to promulgate this theory that this is actually an Air Force plan and might even be a false flag. This stuff might already be out there, intelligent fog and so forth. Enter into it a man by the name of Art Bell.
Yeah.
Surely you remember Art Bell.
Radio guy.
Art Bell, who'd been a radio disc jockey and then living in Nevada, got into late night talk radio and was talking about local politics, local Nevada politics. And he gradually transitioned he was one of the few talk radio places where he did the, I'm not saying, I'm just here to report both sides, or I'm just listening. People would call in and say, what about my turtle is looking at me funny? And he'd be like, tell me more.
That's now the voice of the whole culture.
I know. At the time, it was very unusual because most talk radio people didn't want to get into crazy political talk because they were afraid they'd get regulated. Mm-hmm. That the FCC would say, no, you can't talk about that. Or you can't be that person online or on the radio who's advocating the overthrow of the military, But Art Bell kind of got around it by saying, I'm just teaching the controversy. And he, in the late 90s, early 2000s, was the largest, he had the largest listenership of any radio DJ in the country. He was a massive star. I was not very aware of him because I was not listening to Bigfoot radio at the time.
Well, it was on the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, right. It was in the middle of the night. It was coming out of Nevada, Pahrump, Nevada.
I got invited to go on once, and I can't remember if I did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You can't remember if you did?
Well, I got invited onto all kinds of crazy shows, and you just kind of smile and nod and try to talk about the book. And I can't remember. I think I may have turned down Art Bell.
His show was called Coast to Coast AM.
Yep.
And he had an enormous following. And he did the both sides of the weather as force multiplier controversy. Is this something that the government is really up to? Are they really doing it? And there was no evidence that they weren't. This is sort of the problem.
Hard to disprove that a secret government thing is not happening.
That's right. Ken, my daughter now is in her freshman year of high school. It's or going into her freshman year. It is cell phone city now. All of her friends have phones. They're all talking about their phones all the time and talking on their phones and texting one another on their phones. And I have been surprised and delighted at the number of kids that report that their cell phone plan is through Mint Mobile. As you and I both know, we've been talking about Mint Mobile now for a long time. But with Mint Mobile, you get like a full cell phone service without the kind of typical cell phone shenanigans of extra charges and weird outages and all the things that make cell phone plans like so strangely expensive, and with all these extra fees. It's a super simple, incredibly inexpensive, unlimited premium wireless service. And as far as I can tell, like all the kids in my daughter's cadre almost exclusively are using Mint Mobile. And as you know, there's nobody that's more fastidious about their internet service and cell phone service than teens, right? Although they have their parents are probably making the choice to be on Mint Mobile. The teens are very, very conscious of their technology, and Mint Mobile provides unlimited talk and text, high-speed data, the nation's largest 5G network, and you can bring your own phone, bring your own phone number, all your existing contacts from whatever program you were on before. And right now, you can get 3 months of unlimited service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. When I get my own phone bill, the discrepancy between the charges that I'm paying and the $15 a month of Mint Mobile in this 3-month plan is just, it's just mind-boggling. So this year, and I guess we're coming up on a new school year, but for all of us, this year, we should skip the breaking a sweat and breaking the bank that we typically do with our cell phone stuff and get this new customer offer. 3 months of unlimited wireless for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/omnibus. That's mintmobile.com/omnibus. Be sure to put that /omnibus on the end for your 3 months at $15 a month. That's an upfront payment of $45, which is the $15 a month. And it's limited to new customers and for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on an unlimited plan. And the taxes and fees, of course, are extra. But go to Mint Mobile for details. And again, that's mintmobile.com/omnibus.
Did I do a double negative? Hard to disprove that it is, hard to prove that it's not.
Hard to prove that it's not. Now, the Air Force...
I think I might have said disprove that it's not.
The Air Force came out right away.
Suspiciously quickly.
Still in 96 saying, no, there's none of that. That's not true at all. And it seemed only to indicate, why are they denying this so vocally, so fast? And it only kind of increased the skepticism. In 2000, the year 2000, as we call it, there was a joint agency report co-signed by the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, NASA, which needs no introduction.
Not to me.
And NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's right there in the name, atmospheric.
They're just confessing.
They all came out with a big report that said, no, they're just contrails. It's just normal stuff.
So this had already been tied. The force multiplier stuff had been tied in the public mind to these contrails.
Well, not in the public mind, but in the
conspiracy theorist Art Bell mind.
Yeah, that's right.
So this had already been bubbling up since the 90s, that not only is the Air Force have the potential to do this, they are doing it via the plane trails you're seeing in the sky.
Correct.
Huh. That seems like a leap right there. I guess it is. It does look like the fog.
It does. But there are other factors. And one of them is really focuses on the state of Alaska. at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, they have the world's preeminent science station investigating the aurora borealis and the ionosphere. And it's located there because the aurora borealis is really present there, and the University of Alaska Fairbanks said, you know what, let's specialize in this.
We know that the University of Rice University in Houston cannot challenge us.
That's right. And that, whatever university there is in Reykjavik or Oslo isn't picking up the baton, and so we're going to handle this. And it's my whole life been like an area. Fairbanks is like the focal point of aurora investigation, and
so there's like some local cred. Like this is a
big time.
This is like the equivalent of working for NASA in Cocoa Beach.
It's the real deal, and it took off in my lifetime. Right in the 1980s, there was suddenly a much greater interest in the science of the aurora, and UAF started launching rockets into the ionosphere to sort of try and figure out what the aurora borealis is, and and a lot of what we know about it and about the ionosphere is the result of science done from UAF. And so UAF made a kind of case for building a high-frequency active auroral research program where they built a high-frequency radio transmitter called the Ionospheric Research Instrument, along with a lot of other esoteric instruments, including a flux gate magnetometer.
Take your word for it.
And starting in 1993, with funding from the Air Force, the Navy, DARPA, which is the Defense Advanced Research Patriarchy.
Gave us the internet.
Yep. And University of Alaska, they elected to build this HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. They started constructing it in 93, and it right away had the appeal of a secret installation funded by all the bad guys, right? The Navy, DARPA, ultimately the CIA, all of them kind of trying to understand the ionosphere for various reasons. But HAARP started to appear in science fiction. It's a major plot point in X-Men Legends. That's where the X-Men, or that's where the bad guys go. They go to HAARP.
What does HAARP stand for again?
It stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
That's the Fairbanks thing. It's
a plot point in Tom Clancy's Net Force. It's the name of a Muse live LP. And it's also part of video game lore for several video game platforms, including like a zombie video game, lots of warfare video games. HAARP is exactly the kind of installation that appeals to a science fiction mind, right? It's isolated. It's in the far north, even though it's dealing with space. It's dealing with space. It's a high frequency, what could be interpreted as a manipulation of space instead of a measurement of space. Often it's portrayed as being like hidden up a mountain valley, when in fact Fairbanks is just a like flat river.
It's just a boring building on a plane.
Well, no, I mean it is a giant. It took them from 93 to 2007 to complete. It's a big installation.
So they are making Wolverines or something there.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably.
For sure. But within the community, HAARP became a sort of reverse engineered evidence for chemtrails, and in particular, chemtrails as a component of HAARP. The chemtrails are being sprayed around the world, and then HAARP is activating them as some sort of giant array that is changing not only the weather, but it's affecting your memory. It's, every kind of thing you could think of that it's doing, it appears to be doing.
If I worked there, I'd be flattered. I would love for my office to be bandied as the nexus of world control.
I think they also probably, for me, I'd feel exactly the same way.
It's funny. I guess it's funny till the crazies start showing up at the gate.
Yeah. And I think they probably have a pretty strong locked gate. If you think about the increase in jet travel during this same period, just between 1990 and the present, more and more people are seeing more and more situations where the sky appears to be crisscrossed with parallel and intersecting lines where it's dissipating in the sky. Like there are more contrails now than there were really at any time in human history. And you can look up on a sunny day and the contrails appear to be glistening, glimmering, reflecting or refracting different colors.
And dummy me, I was just like, there's more planes. But I guess I'm missing the point.
You're missing the point. And that is that this chemtrail umbrella is designed by the global conspiracy to trigger floods, which we have seen a lot more of lately. Can't deny it. Trigger hurricanes, also seem to be seeing a lot more of those. Droughts, similarly, very much more common than they were just a few years ago.
I love that these people are just agreeing with me on all the tenets of climate change.
Yeah.
With one detail difference.
And more earthquakes, a lot more mind control.
Yeah, there is more mind control.
There's a lot more mind control.
I guess that you're talking me into being a hashtag chemtrails guy. I guess I believe in the conspiracy theory that fossil fuels had something to do with this. And they're just like, oh, you sweet summer child. You fell for it. It's actually the network of airplane contrails.
Here's more bad news for you. In 2013, NASA, the aforementioned NASA, plus NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, combined with the CIA, and they funded the National Academy of Science researching methods of combating global warming. Because the CIA, this may surprise people, but the CIA believes in global warming, as does NASA and NOAA. Now, we can't trust them because,
well, they did up until a year ago. I'm not sure if you could get fired for sending a memo about global warming now at the CIA or not. I don't know.
The wonderful thing about the CIA is a lot of those memos are secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the CIA actually believed that global warming not only was real, but was a danger to the United States.
Would destabilize governments in the global south, I'm going to guess.
Yes, that and also, would just make us like at a disadvantage. And how do we combat global warming? But the combination of those groups funding the National Academy of Science in the eyes of chemtrail subscribers discredited the entire National Academy of Science and all of its good works. And that began what then was sort of, what now, but increasingly from 2015 on, became the heyday of chemtrail talk, hashtag chemtrails. There were several photographs circulated of Airbus and Boeing airplanes where the interior had been stripped out and the planes were full of water tanks with all this complicated hosiery going from tank to tank that, if you look at it, if I showed you a picture right now, you would go, what the hell are they spraying out of those water tanks?
They're manipulating the weather.
But in fact, what they are is they're testing changes in ballast and
different pressures.
Yeah, well, and just weight. Like, what if the plane is totally full of passengers and we put them all at the front? Well, what if they're all at the back?
I thought you were going to tell me they were flying dolphins to SeaWorld.
No, that would be nice. That's a better world. Although, no, we should leave the dolphins alone.
Yeah, don't fly them anywhere.
But no, what they're doing is they're putting planes in the air and they're moving weight around. And the easiest way to do that is to move it.
This is to research airplane development?
Yeah, just the dynamics of airplanes as they're flying.
Got it.
You often get on a half full airplane and they'll seat people.
Load balance.
Yeah, to balance the load. And you're like, can I sit over there? And they're like, no,
we would crash if you had an aisle seat.
Exactly.
Sorry, you're sitting in the middle.
I took a helicopter tour a couple of years ago around here with a couple of lady friends, and they were very specific. Like, you have to sit here, and your lightweight lady friends sit over here and there. And I was like, but I want to sit over. And they're like, nope.
And you should have lost some weight.
Nope, fatty. I got to sit in the back.
We crash if fatty doesn't sit here.
So there started to be a lot of evidence posted. In 2014, a guy by the name of Chris Bovey posted a video of a plane jettisoning fuel. And what happens, those of you who are not airline pilots, if you're in a fully loaded plane that's meant to go across the oceans and there's an emergency and you have to turn around and land, you can't land with all of that fuel on the plane. It's too heavy.
Your plane was engineered to land having lost all that fuel.
That's right. And you'd break your landing gear. It would be a disaster if you tried to land a fully loaded airplane.
This is true of commercial airlines.
Throughout the history of airplanes.
Huh.
And so in what is often an unfortunate scenario, a plane gets up in the air. There's an emergency. It has to turn around or it has to land. Even if it's only been flying for an hour or two, it has to land because someone's having a heart attack or something else. In order to put it safely on the ground, you have to just dump that fuel into the sky. And the fuel, vaporizes. It's not like it really rains jet fuel on anybody's town if you drop it high enough. But this was a situation where the plane took off and needed to turn around and land right away. It was down in Rio or something. And it was captured on film that this jet was clearly dumping liquid. And Chris Bovey posted it online, and it was viewed 3 million times. He later said that he knew it was just a jet dumping fuel, and he posted it under a Chemtrails heading as a gag.
Oh.
But nobody wants to hear that.
Too much trust in his audience.
That's right. And so there started then to be an increasing political recognition that people were calling their congressman, they were calling their U.S. senator, and they were screaming that they were feeling the effects of chemtrails, headaches, nosebleeds. They were living out in the Arizona desert in a trailer, and they were wearing a tinfoil hat, and they were spraying distilled vinegar into the air to combat the chemtrails, and it wasn't working.
We're out of bleach.
We're out of bleach, and things are out of control. In 2001, no less a person than Dennis Kucinich introduced a bill banning extraterrestrial weapons, tectonic weapons.
Thank you. Finally, somebody's saying it.
And chemtrails. It was called the Space Preservation Act.
Space is really in danger from all those tectonic weapons.
It is. But it did not pass. But it was not the first or the last of these legislations. And we're living now in
maybe the
world,
last from a Democrat.
There was, and he's not a Democrat anymore, right? He's somewhere in
independent
in weird
something party.
Yeah. In 2005, there was a bill to create a government agency called the Weather Modification Operations and Research Board, which also WMORB, which also did not succeed, the bill didn't get passed. But recently we have gone right over the deep end, and there's another Alaska connection here, and actually a family connection.
Oh, is this is going to be all your fault?
It's going to be all my fault. Nick Begich was. Do you know Nick Begich?
Yes.
The original Nick Begich was a U.S. senator from Alaska who died mysteriously, or we assume died. He and his party in a small plane were lost in Alaska, and
he was like the lone congressman from Alaska. Right?
That's right. I'm sorry, not senator, congressman, the lone congressman from Alaska,
lone representative,
and he and his party disappeared and have still never been found.
By his party, you don't mean the Republicans.
He was a Democrat, and he was a good friend of my Uncle Jack, and was an Alaskan hero. And a liberal Democrat, and still considered like one of the great Alaskans. And in the style of the time, the plane went out, never came back,
They've never found the wreckage?
No.
Was it over water?
No.
Wow.
Searched and searched and searched and searched.
Got to be there somewhere.
It happened actually right after the law was passed that airplanes had to have some sort of locator device. And I think they found the locator device in the pilot's backpack in the airport or something. Like it was like within days of when it would have been
He
installed.
just forgot to bring it along.
And when Nick Begich was lost, his seat eventually went to Don Young, who was one of the worst representatives in history, in our opinion, as Democrats from Alaska. He was there forever. And then Don Young went away. God called him back. And there was a special election where Nick Begich the third ran against Sarah Palin and a woman named Mary Patola. Mary Patola won the special election.
I remember.
Then she won the next election. And this was the beginning of ranked choice voting in Alaska. It had never happened before.
Well, Patola ran as a Democrat, right?
She did. Won twice, and then the
protect the fisheries. That's how Democrat wins in Alaska.
That's right.
Fisheries.
But because of the ranked choice voting and because of their spoilers, I mean, Sarah Palin was in there and was a Republican spoiler.
Yeah.
Eventually, the two of them ran for a third time against one another in 2024. And because there was kind of I don't know if you recall, a Republican Party momentum in 2024, finally, Nick Begich III won and is now the representative from the state of Alaska.
And unlike his dad, a Republican.
No, unlike his grandfather. His father, Nick Begich Jr., whose brother Mark is a U.S. senator and whose other brother Tom is an Alaska state senator, wrote a book called Angels Don't Play This Harp about how...
He comes from a Chemtrails family.
Well, he is the Chemtrails family because although Nick Begich III has been shown to own 20% of his father's publishing company, he disavows belief in chemtrails, and his father says, yeah, he doesn't. He's a bad son. He doesn't believe that the government is controlling our minds.
What a disappointment.
I know, real disappointment. But anyway, so Nick Begich is out there spreading the belief that chemtrails and HARP are all part of a plan from DARPA and the CIA to control our minds.
And he's now in the House.
He is in the House, and in a kind of, this was in the news quite a bit. In April of last year, the state of Tennessee passed a bill banning intentional injection, release, or dispersion with the express purpose of affecting temperature, weather, or sunlight intensity.
Sunlight. That seems like a tough one to do, but okay.
Of anything into the atmosphere.
Tennessee has banned chemtrails.
Yes.
There's finally a chemtrails-free state.
Well, I'm afraid that, let me be the bearer of this news.
It's bad news.
Well, I don't know if it's bad because, I think I've shown that there's quite a bit of, even though Edward Snowden went on Joe Rogan and said, look, I had access to everything. I had access to every file. And I looked for all the UFO information I could find and all the chemtrails information I could find, and there's none. It's total bunkum. None of those things. There's no government file.
John, they got to Snowden.
I know they did. And Joe Rogan, expressed, his sort of like credulous, like, I'm just teaching both sides. What we know about the chemtrails argument is that, like I said before, it appeals in every way to scientific evidence, but it is contingent on not believing scientists.
Yes.
And in the final accounting, the argument in favor of it is that there is a secret cabal that's manipulating markets using weather specifically.
There's the economic effects are very important to them.
Manipulate futures markets. The sickness that it's creating benefits drug companies.
Big pharma.
They are using it to control population and ultimately test bioweapons, and then...
It's a very versatile program.
It's incredible.
All you need to do is spray stuff out of a plane and you can change people's potency and try out weapons.
It was a huge, huge component of the feeling that the last few hurricanes that have affected the southeast of the United States were controlled weather instances. Like all those hurricanes could have been prevented.
But that only happens under a Democratic administration.
I know.
What happens now when those hurricanes keep getting worse?
We have a hurricane season that's just now beginning, so we'll see. Maybe Trump is turned off the spigot.
Turned off the hurricane switch?
Turned off the hurricane switch because, the whole argument, and it's the argument against FEMA, a lot of it is hinged on the fact that these are disasters that could have been prevented, not only could have been prevented, but were initiated specifically to devastate the state of North Carolina.
I'm just going to guess there will not be a reckoning when climate events keep occurring, no matter which party has control of the levers of power and airplane weapons.
Currently in the United States, 8 states have legislation pending banning chemtrails.
We're getting so free. We're going to be so free.
I'm feeling the freedom. It's no longer raining down from the sky, thank God.
I hope the 8 states are contiguous.
They aren't.
Oh. Well, because if they were, you could move there and no chemtrails will get anywhere close. Now, even if your state bans chemtrails, you might be adjacent to some godless state that still allows chemtrails.
I feel like
the enforcement mechanism will be tricky. I wonder what the state of Tennessee will be doing as a matter of government policy, state government policy, to stop those weapons and climate engineering from happening.
I know that Louisiana is one of them.
What happens when people keep seeing the contrails, John?
Minnesota is one of them. Florida and Tennessee. I mean, some of these are your usual suspects, but Minnesota?
Minnesota. In your sense, I mean, these are not going to pass in many or all of these states.
Who knows?
But let me ask you this. Do you
Georgia.
think the average #chemtrails person believes that some contrails exist and are benign? Because that's going to be important if their state bans chemtrails, but they keep seeing.
Yeah. Oh, no. I think the 20% of people that are like, I think only some chemtrails are part of a giant conspiracy to manipulate the futures market and create starvation. I think it's kind of like a Kennedy assassination thing where you feel like, well, it seems so unlikely that Oswald did it alone, but I can't decide whether it was Castro, the mafia, whether it was just like his other friend, whether it was some hobos. Was it the CIA too? There's like so many options.
Daughters of the Confederacy.
It feels like it was one of them, some other one, but I don't know exactly which one.
I just wonder if the whole thing falls apart once anti-chemtrails feeling reaches the public sphere, but jet planes, because they do continue to have white contrails.
Have you ever once heard somebody in recent years back off of their super conviction that things are not what they seem?
I mean, I guess you just hope that they move on. The problem is they move on to something crazier.
I feel like the other day, didn't Donald Trump suggest that Biden died a long time ago and was replaced with a robot?
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Robot Biden.
Yeah, so it's just, if there are still chemtrails, I mean, QAnon Q said every day for 6 months that tomorrow there was going to be a big explanation and the swamp was going to get drained. And then every day he was like, oh, tomorrow. It's like just borderline personality disorder where every day whatever you talked about yesterday is gone, and there's a new emergency today that is you don't even acknowledge that yesterday you had a different.
That's why it's called the present, John. Every day is a gift. And that concludes Chemtrails, entry 212.AM0407, certificate number 52946, in the omnibus. We keep an eye on all the latest conspiracy theories by staying on social media. It's our favorite thing.
I can't wait for people to yell at me about this episode when they're like, you didn't mention the thing that really proves chemtrails.
I think you're going to get people yelling at you the other way. Like, you guys were treating it like it was real.
Yeah. I mean,
because we're like Joe Rogan. We just teach the controversy.
We're still part of that culture where you can say something and not believe it. You can even say something in a certain tone of voice.
I would put it in a more flattering way than that if I were trying to defend this behavior pattern. Yeah. Yeah, I have to say you did not convince me of chemtrails in this episode. I was waiting.
I'm not convinced either.
I was waiting to be turned, but where's the smoking gun, John?
It's in this. It's literally.
It's locked up in Fairbanks, Alaska.
No, the smoking gun is the smoke that's coming down out of the sky and creating famine in you.
Planes are the gun. Sorry, I'm opening mail loudly while I do this.
No, it's all right.
At Ken Jennings and at John Roderick are where we keep an eye and propagate all the important conspiracy theories. At Omnibus Project as well. You can email us your own chemtrail beliefs to theomnibusproject@gmail.com. You can send physical items like the one I'm trying to figure out right now to P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington 98155. Roger, whom I think we recently did one of his show ideas. Maybe Comics Code Authority? First of all, I don't know why I'm reading the PS first. Like, I think this is going to be the exciting part.
Why are you doing that?
When he emailed us about the Han and Leia vanity plates, we did not mention his wife's name, and she's bummed.
Oh.
So we should mention her.
Go. Mention her.
That's it. Roger's wife.
Oh, he didn't say his wife's name? I think she's going to be even more bummed. Come on, Roger.
I guess just in a Handmaid's Tale way, we can call her like of Roger.
Roger.
No. He does say Christina is her name.
Oh, hi, Christina.
Thank you, Christina, for whatever your contributions were.
Well, thank you, Christina, for managing Roger, who seems like
seems like a lot.
Yeah, he does. He seems like an awful lot.
He's giving us his qualifications. He's been mentioned on a podcast. That was when we admired his I love you, I know license plates or whatever they have.
His qualifications that he's mentioning to us are times that we've mentioned him.
Yeah. I just want you guys to know how famous I am. You talked about me once. Let's see. He appeared on the History Channel series Modern Marvels.
Okay, that seems like
good.
a real thing.
And this one I'm very interested in. He's appeared as a character in a comic book, and not just any comic book. It's actually one I used to read to my kids. We have a dog named after this comic book.
Is it Snoopy?
Our dog's name is Omaha the Cat Dancer.
One of my favorites.
Our dog's name is Chance after Leave It to Chance, the all ages 90s comic. Why Roger doesn't explain why he sent us a copy of the entire run.
You're kidding. The
funny thing is I have read this comic to my kids. I was like a real fan of this. It was charming. It was like kind of a Hellboy for little kids. It's a little girl whose dad is a paranormal investigator, if I remember right, but she's often running off and having her own Nancy Drew adventures fighting ghost pirates or whatever kind of Scooby-Doo villains of the week.
Now, are you saying you read this to your kids when they were teenagers? Because I didn't know that about your family.
I don't know when they were little.
Did you sit at the end of their bed and say...
You didn't know that I read my kids' bedtime stories?
Well, no, but
it's not that far-fetched.
I thought you had just said that when they were teenagers. I was trying to imagine Dylan at 16 years old letting you sit there and read him a comic book.
Oh, he didn't let me. I was just like, listen, I pay the rent here. I'm going to be reading this comic out loud, and you're going to sit here. No, this is when they were... I mean, it's kind of for tween-age kids, but this is when my youngest was little. But now I'm interested because having read this comic... Do I actually remember Roger as a character in it? I do not.
I mean, was he like me? I was in one episode of one issue of a comic book.
Did I tell you I read that comic?
You did. And did you?
I was very surprised because I'm just reading this. I'm reading some Marvel comic that somebody had recommended to me. Mm-hmm. Like the writer is, she's like a spy author or a YA author or something.
Yeah, from Portland.
But she's like a real author of real books.
Oh yeah, she's a great author.
And so I was reading her comic, and suddenly you're the prime suspect in some murder aboard a nerd cruise.
I'm so glad that you had that experience because I'm sure that happened many times across the country. But
your kid might be the same age, the right age to enjoy these. Actually, we're spending a lot of time on this, but it's just because he wrapped it very well. There we go. So where in book, he says he's mostly in issues 9 and 10. So I'm actually going to crack this open. It's no longer near mint condition or whatever, I guess.
Do it.
To try to find where is our listener, Roger. But now we did that Comics Code Authority omnibus entry at his suggestion.
People really seem to like it.
I hope he does, because what we're finding out is that he's a real comic book industry bigwig. He hangs out with. So we have a dog named Chance after Leave It to Chance. I mean, I'm reading this comic now, and I'm looking for a guy named Roger. I feel like he's bearing the lead. Like, yeah, I just appear in this comic, but how? Whom do you know? Maybe he was a fictional character and then he's somehow entered our universe. He's now gotten enough reality that he can suggest podcast topics. Well, when Roger and Christina listen to this, they will know that we crave more information about their comic book adventures.
I should say that the comic that we were referring to, where I was the prime suspect in a murder mystery, is Mockingbird.
Mockingbird.
And the issue was written by author Chelsea Kane. And Chelsea Kane went to Seaholm High School. No, Bellingham High School. No, Seaholm High School with my daughter's mother/partner.
Oh, is that right?
And we just vacationed with her briefly in Maui last year.
Did they know each other?
Oh,
they were contemporaries there?
They're very close. I've known Chelsea for a long time. And when I discovered that I was the villain in A Mockingbird, it turns out I'm not. Well, I don't want to give it away, but I was one of the suspicious characters. I was very flattered. I've always wanted to be a comic book character. Lived my whole life that way.
And it's almost like you got to be a comic character and a murder she wrote kind of mystery suspect.
I appeared as a character in a Colin Malloy book, which was fun. And they're right there. There's the illustration from it. Jock Roderick, the storyteller from the first of his...
what are those books called? Fablehaven.
Fablehaven.
Is that right?
No,
that's somebody else. What are those Colin Malloy books called? Travel, Portland, Colin Malloy children's books.
They're called Wildwood. I was in the original Wildwood, and then Carson, his wife, gave me the illustration as a present.
Thank you, Roger, for sending us Leave It to Chance. My kid is going away to college, and I might just give him a complete set of these.
Can you believe Colin Malloy was born in 1974? Isn't that when you were born?
What month?
I don't know.
Well, how are we supposed to celebrate Colin Malloy's birthday?
He was born in Helena, Montana, October 5th, 1974. So
I'm older than Colin Malloy?
Yeah, can you believe that?
That's discouraging.
I'm way older than him. I didn't know I was that much older than him, and that makes me even madder. I'm always mad at that guy.
Find your other Futurelings online, just looking for the word Futurelings on Facebook or whatever. Then you can congregate and do whatever it is you do. And the best way to support Omnibus is to go to patreon.com/omnibusproject, as always, and give some thought to what tier you would like to support the show at, because different benefits and perks will accrue to you. Like our friend Ty, is that right? Mm-hmm. Ty gave it some omniversal hyperchoral, some level so exalted that he was able to suggest a topic for an omnibus show, and you liked multiple of his suggestions.
Here's the amazing thing about Ty, and this should go out to all of our Patreon subscribers who are at the level you can recommend a show. Ty recommended a handful of topics and connected each recommendation to a different Long Winter song.
He knows the way to your heart.
He does. So he suggested 2 weeks ago our show on margarine, and then suggested chemtrails. And the chemtrails one was obvious. I should have done this in 2017, but
the government was making you dumb.
The government was absolutely
with their fluids,
manipulating my internal precious bodily fluids.
Were there times where you were like, I think I'm going to do chemtrails on Omnibus tomorrow, and then you went outside and suddenly you were like, nah, my mind is getting cloudy. I can't actually remember facts about chemtrails.
The thing is, if that happened, I don't remember.
Exactly. That's how they get you. So Ty got 2 shows?
2 shows.
For the price of 1?
2 shows. I thought that the extra effort that Ty went to, both to suggest multiple shows, to suggest multiple shows, not both.
To think of
good shows, and then connect those good show ideas to Long Winter songs. What above and beyond the Call of Duty. So I thought I would reward him with 2 shows. This could happen to you. if you subscribe to the Patreon and come up with good ideas for shows,
we could just come up with new benefits to shower on you that are not part of our standard operating agreement.
yeah, Ken and I could sit here and just do your shows for the rest of your life.
In fact, we would like that. If every week you would send us a new idea, it would really save us a lot of trouble. So thank you for supporting us, all who do, at patreon.com/Omnibus Project. I think you know by now, the show would have gone away years ago without your support.
Futurelings, did you know that Colin Malloy's middle names are Patrick Henry?
Whoa.
It just makes me want to slap him even more. Every time I find out something about him, I want to kick him in the shins.
What does that mean to you that he has two? Is it because he has two middle names or because it's a founding father?
Yeah, because it's Patrick Henry. Like, it just, his, I know a little bit about his family, and they're all very smart and they're all very clever, and they named their son Colin Patrick Malloy. Patrick Henry Malloy. And it just, I don't know. Why don't I have a founding father as my middle name?
Concealed within you.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you not John Thomas Paine Roderick?
Yeah, thank you. John Adams Roderick.
John Herbert Walker Roderick.
Futurelings, from our vantage point in your distant past, we have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. But if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Many Goods and Cheese sweepstakes Omnibus Project.